The summer break is over. It's time to get back to work for the Jets and for Flight Plan. Thanks for joining us. Tim McMaster along with Zack Rosenblatt and Will Parkinson is back today. Please like the show wherever you're watching, whether it's YouTube or if you're listening to us on Spotify or Apple. Keep those reviews coming in as well. No better time for a 5-star review than right at the beginning of training camp, which opens today. Everyone's feeling good. Garrett and Sauce got paid. New coaching staff. Let's go. We're going to take a different approach on kind of getting everybody ready for training camp today with the primer. Zack and Will are going to draft their most interesting Jets entering camp. They'll each get 5 picks. We'll recap it at the end. I'll just act as kind of commissioner along the way. But before we get to that, it's been a while since we recorded, Zack. I spent a week in the Jersey Shore. You spent a week in Greece. So you win. How are you doing?
Good. Also, happy anniversary to Will. I saw his anniversary yesterday.
So
there you go. 2 years.
We all got stuff for celebrating. Yeah. Nice. Yeah. But Greece was, as you can imagine, it was amazing. Hard to come back to reality after that. Everybody out there is like so nice. The food is amazing. And then you come back to America and the shitty humidity and everybody's miserable. But yeah, it was an amazing trip. 10 days is a long time to go anywhere. I don't know if I've been on a trip that long in a very long time. So like coming back to reality when you're like getting so used to being in a place like that and the time difference and the 10-hour flight and all that stuff. But, blessed to have been able to go for my honeymoon. And then because I have a dumb job, I had like 2 weeks of basically just lounging around, just recovering while my wife had to go to like her real job. I mean, I was writing and making calls, don't get me wrong, but I didn't have to go anywhere. I could be lazy and on my ass and my couch. So I'm ready for camp, even if it did feel like it came around fast, but I'm ready to get going later today. Actually, they're going to report today, and we'll be at the facility.
I was going to say, get off your ass and get to One Jets Drive later today. All right, let's get right into it. That's enough chit chat. Will, you are the guest, so you have the first pick in the first annual Jets training camp interesting player draft.
We'll come up with a better name next year. Yeah.
The Rosenblatt Invitational. No, I'm obviously not going to draft Michael Clemens first. As Zack texted me before, I was like, just do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to go with a bit of an off-the-radar one, someone I'm going to predict that's going to make the 53-man roster. There's some other bigger names. I'm going to go with Brandon Smith, receiver. He was on the Jets last year. They made a move and brought him in. He was in one game last year, so I'm not going to sit here and tell you that he's the next Keyshawn Johnson, but I thought he had a really, really nice spring. The Jets need somebody to, and that there's this group of receivers after Reynolds is a lock, obviously. Arian Smith's a lock. There's a group of like 5 or 6 guys competing for probably 2 spots, maybe 3, depending on how they construct this roster. And if he can show himself to be, hey, can I go be a gunner on specials? Can I play on kickoff and different things like that? And then he made a bunch of plays during OTs and minicamp. Again, I'm not sitting here telling you that he's going to be a starter or anything like that. But I think everyone wants this receiver room to show something. There's somebody to show something, right? Outside of Reynolds and obviously Garrett. Can he be a guy who'd be like, hey, we don't really need Allen Lazard because you're also a big body guy and you cost us $840K, or, you're going to make the team over Corley because you're more reliable and can play multiple spots. And just asking some of the players, I felt like he stood out as one guy of just, no pads, spring, but had a decent camp. And, in the offseason, just a new staff. And that first they saw of him was him performing well in the spring. So I'm going to take him just because I think he's a guy who I feel like he's going to be the Brownlee, Gibson, under the radar name that makes the roster. And everyone's like, oh, who is that? And maybe expectations might turn out to be out of proportion, but I just think he's a guy who's going to have a nice camp and show some stuff.
I like it. Off the radar pick. I'm going to go more obvious with my first pick. And then I'll start getting into more fun ones. I'll say Justin Fields. Yeah, I'll say Justin Fields. I mean, he is the most interesting one in camp, just like broadly, because everything kind of hangs on him. And as you know, I like to track quarterback stats, which half excites people, half like, he's like, oh, why are you doing that? These throws don't matter. But like, everybody relax. It's fun. And you get to kind of see, you get a vibe. I also keep track of who he throws to. So you get a vibe of like the target share and stuff, which usually works out. But I'm just curious to see, I think the most important thing isn't necessarily him dominating, though that would be nice. I think it's progress. And I think we saw that in the spring. If we see that throughout camp, especially as pads get on, it gets hotter, things get feisty. I'm not going to repeat all the obvious things everybody always says about Fields and all that stuff. But yeah, you just want to see progress. You want to see, him getting rid of the ball in a timely manner, him taking off and running when it's there, him throwing it away when nothing's there, like all the obvious things, because the talent is there, as you know, and he's had trouble with like some processing and stuff like that in the past. So will everything they did in the spring pay off? Like, we're going to find out in camp, and I'm excited just to see how he looks. And I haven't really covered a quarterback that moves like him, so I'm going to be I'm very curious to see how much they run it with him in camp. I mean, he can't get tackled, obviously. They're going to have some tackling, which is in a story I wrote about today about just how much different this camp's going to look. But yeah, I'm excited to see Justin Fields work. And it was funny. Will and I Will joked before when I told him about this idea. He's like, Adrian Martinez. I went on a radio show like a day or two ago, Sirius XM NFL. Those guys do a great job, but they were like they were talking about the quarterback position. They brought up Adrian Martinez, which like threw me off. I was like, oh, okay. Didn't know people were talking about him now on a national level, but
big story.
Yeah.
So, obvious pick. Will's get the advantage here through one round, just for going off the radar. But I will say this about Fields: how much do we expect him to be on the field in the preseason games?
I'm very curious. Like, I don't know. I would lean towards him not really playing much, if at all. But just the way Aaron Glenn is, I imagine he's going to want to get the starters out there for whether it's a series or two. I don't know if that would be at the end of the preseason, the beginning, or if they do a series in each game. Like, I genuinely have no idea. That's something we'll probably ask him in the coming days. I don't really have a good vibe for it. I lean towards him running a series at least, but just because you want to have the operation have some real actual practice. And the fact that they're doing tackling indicates that like he wants them to actually be practicing things that will be happening in the game. So that's why I would lean towards them playing him a little bit, but I don't really, you can't afford to lose your starting quarterback, generally speaking. They do have Tyrod, but like you don't want him to get hurt in the preseason either. So it's going to be an interesting balance. I'm curious to see how he plays it out.
Yeah, because if Fields gets hurt in the preseason, what are the chances of Taylor getting past like week 4, right? With his history as well. So, all right, back to you, Will, for the third pick.
Yeah, I do just want to hit on the Fields thing. I do wonder two things, at least for me. I think Zack, you pointed out. One, just is the ball coming out quick? Is throughout camp? I think you mentioned it a couple of times on your show and then in your articles, like, hey, the ball started to come out a little faster as the spring went on. Can that continue in the summer? And then I think also like the joint practices, how much they actually get to work with the starters. I feel like last year, Rodgers missed the one because of the rain, and then there were some like guys in and out. I feel like the more reps they can get those joint practices, maybe it affects how much they play later on in the preseason. Pick 2, I'm going to go Azareye'h Thomas. I may be leading the bandwagon of Azareye'h Thomas fans here, but just asking a bunch of the guys, like they were really impressed with, again, a guy coming in day one as a rookie and, again, no pads, but like looked like an NFL player. We talked, I think everyone's kind of was intrigued by the pick. It felt like a Glenn pick to a T. And he's going to talk a lot of trash. He's going to be in your face, and he's a very physical corner. He's the kind of culture type of guy I think this regime's looking for. So I think he's going to be really interesting. And again, like, would it be shocking if he plays really early on in the season? I don't think so. If he has a really nice camp, I think the Jets are going to play the best 11 guys on both sides of the ball. Like, I don't think there's going to be that. This regime's, again, it's a new regime. They don't know anybody anything. And I don't think Glenn comes from a background of owing people stuff. Your contract's cool. And if Brandon Stevens has a bad camp and Azareye'h Thomas has a great camp, like, they're going to adjust their plan. Obviously, I think they hope Brandon Stevens plays really well because they gave him a bunch of money. But I just think Thomas is a guy who's going to get his hands on the football. He's going to get in guys' face. The Jets have a lot of big receivers. I think that's going to play into his advantage and make him look better. Like 4.9, 5.9 speed's not going to be a problem when you're guarding Allen Lazard and Josh Reynolds to an extent for the majority of camps. So I just think if he's going against the twos and it's Brandon Smith and Lazard and these other guys, he's got an opportunity to look really good in some aggressive, defense. So I'll go Azareye'h Thomas as my second pick.
Lou Giordano says AZ CB2 by week.
That's a good question. I mean, I think he'll be the starter or a starter by the end of the season, but who knows if that's because of injuries or performance. But I do think they're going to slow play with him. But yeah, like Will said, if he comes out and is just like balling out in camp, like you're not going to keep a guy off the field who you invested in like that. And Brandon Stevens' versatility maybe would be helpful because he can hypothetically help at safety too. All right, my second pick. I'll go with Braylon Allen. He was like a breakout guy in last year's camp and then kind of disappeared a little bit in the season. They got away from the run. He didn't look great in the regular season games, showed some flashes. I just think he's a very talented kid, and people kind of maybe forgot that he's that talented because of the way last season went. They're going to run the ball a lot. This group likes to rotate running backs, and he complements Breece Hall's skill set so well. So I keep saying this. I envision this running game as a like Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, not like to that caliber. I don't think Breece is as good as Jahmyr, and I don't think Braylon Allen's as good as David Montgomery, but it's the same idea. And so I think he's going to play a big role. He's going to have a real chance to break out. I do think Isaiah Davis is a factor because he's talented, but Braylon Allen in camp, especially with tackling, because there wasn't really tackling at all last year. I don't know like the level of tackling and how often they're going to do it, but I'm just very curious to see how he looks in year 2, a year in the NFL, a year bulking up, getting in shape. This new offense built around the running game. I'm very excited to see how he looks in the preseason, but especially in training camp.
Will, thoughts on Allen? I like the whole pick and then rebuttal from the other person. So
he just turned 21 like 4 or 5 months ago. It's
crazy.
He's still extremely young. He's one of the youngest guys on the roster, and this says like a lot about this roster where I'm probably more optimistic than most. I think this team will be much more competitive than I think many people kind of see, but it's going to take a lot of the Braylon Allens, the Azareye'h Thomases, and people like that. And obviously Fields is a given, but like those guys improving and getting better under the staff, something the Jets struggled so much with under Saleh was not necessarily drafting the wrong players outside of Zach Wilson and Elijah Moore. Like they drafted a lot of really good players, just don't feel like they got better. A majority of them. So, outside of your Sherwood, Carter, like there wasn't a lot of late round finds, things like that. So can Braylon Allen be that like, hey, day 3 guy that's a running back? Can he give you 400 yards and 4 or 5 touchdowns and just be a competent, good running back 2 and spell Breece Hall? 3, I'm going to go one more rookie here. I'm going to go Malachi Moore. And I think Malachi Moore's got a chance to make, Zach referenced the intensity of camp. This is a guy that started for Nick Saban as a 17, 18-year-old. That doesn't happen. And it doesn't happen in the defensive spot where you're, asking my brother about it. Like he said, part of the reason was Saban was obsessed with how smart and, smart he was as a football player. And day 1 walked on and was like, I got this. And like took the bull by the horns or whatever cliche you want to use. So you assume a guy like Glenn's going to feel the exact same way. And that's obviously why they took him. So I think he's going to have a couple times during camp where he's going to pop people. And there's going to be some, him and maybe it's Cisco as well are going to take an opportunity to use the physicalness. And, we watched those Lions DBs, Kirby Joseph, as a guy, again, 2nd, 3rd round pick, Brian Branch, like he's familiar with that physical nature. He played obviously with Branch at Bama. So I just think he's a guy who's the starting safety next to Cisco. Is it Stevens? Is it Malachi Moore? Is it Tony Adams? Is it someone we're not talking about? So I just find it really interesting because the Jets might have one, if not multiple rookie starters early on in the season with another couple of veterans. Obviously, Carter and Sauce are cemented and Cisco. But other than that, those other 2 spots, I just feel like who's going to have the best camp? And I think everyone, including myself, would like to see Moore grab that because, again, homegrown guy this regime drafted, you like to see him kind of, grab that open spot and run with it.
Yeah, he was probably going to be my next pick, so that was a good one because I do think he's going to beat out Tony Adams for a starting job. I don't think Adams is going to get cut. I know some people have tried to project that, but Adams will probably be the 3rd safety. But Glenn kind of compared him to Brian Branch coming out of the draft. Like that's the kind of safety he likes, someone who can move around. He's a high flying player, and I'm very curious to see how he looks in camp. I think the defensive backs are going to be itching to see whether it's Justin Fields or Tyrod, who both like to take risks down the field. Like that's catnip kind of for defensive backs to a degree because then they can pick it off and stuff like that. So both Azareye'h and Malachi Moore, it's going to be a very interesting camp for them. They're going to have every opportunity. I've said this so many times. I think they have if not the best defensive back coaching rooms in the NFL. I think this is going to be a group that's very, very good at developing defensive. Aaron Glenn on his own was great at that in Detroit. Then you add in Chris Harris and Dre Bly and Steve Wilkes. Like that's just an elite group of coaching on the back end. So I am excited to see Malachi.
Don't you feel like Chris Banjo is going to be obsessed with Malachi more? Like former safety.
And Banjo,
like,
yeah. That's
like,
another NFL defensive back,
I was going to say, like, I was talking about this yesterday on John Stremski, friend of the Badlands family. And he was like, be they going to get in Sauce's face if he has a bad day? I'm like, dude, they have like 6 guys who all were pretty accomplished players and first round picks and all these different things, won Super Bowls. Like this whole staff is going to want guys that are going to resemble their character. And I feel like Moore is like the most classic in your face. Like just look at what he did when he played against Auburn. That's their biggest rival. Every year was a big hit. I think he was 5-0 against Auburn in his career. Like that stuff doesn't go unnoticed by a lot of NFL staff, especially former players.
Yeah, for sure. All right, I'm going to go with a little more fun one. Like I think a top candidate to be like a training camp darling. You and I have talked about him, Will. Jamal Pritchett, South Alabama undrafted rookie. He's like 5'8", 5'9". Yeah, Lou Giordano says whoever takes Jamal Pritchett wins in the chat. So I win. But yeah, he flashed a little bit in the spring, but flashing in the spring doesn't necessarily always portend to the training camp. So him making an impact with the backups at receiver, but his way onto the roster is going to be on special teams, especially at returner. Xavier Gipson's spot is definitely shaky. He's still the favorite, but it's shaky because he's not coming off a great year. Previous staff loved him, but this is a new staff. If Jamal Pritchett comes in and outplays him, like they'll keep Jamal Pritchett and cut Gibson. Like that's definitely a possibility. And so he's someone I have my eye on as a like training camp star. A lot of them wind up being like receivers. That's why I wrote out a list of a lot of guys I'm considering, and a bunch of them are wide receivers and like skill position guys, because those are the ones that always kind of dominate the headlines when you're not like a draft pick. But I'm very curious to see how Jamal looks and how they use him even on offense.
Yeah, I don't. One thing with Gibson that I think we don't talk enough about, it's not just that he wasn't very good last year in terms of like he had some fumbling stuff, right? And obviously that's a big no-no, but defensive coaches also, I know Glenn's a CEO, but like he was a defensive back and a defensive coordinator. I feel like one big pet peeve is like not having field awareness when you're catching punts. I know it's such a small thing, but when Berrios was a really good returner here, like he had a great awareness of when to fair catch, when not to, when to like fair catching inside your 5-yard line and doing these different things that Gibson got used to doing. I don't know if that was a Boyer Saleh thing. I can't say for certain, but he's going to have to not do that. And like fair catching with your toes on the 10-yard line and backing up's always been a big time no. You chip the gunner and like let the ball bounce, and it is what it is. That stuff can't happen. I can just see already like Gibson, like the second preseason game, catching a punt inside the 5-yard line, and Adrian Martinez, our GOAT, having to dig them out of a hole, and Glenn being like, what are you doing? So that's one thing I would be curious if Gibson's gotten better at since the Saleh regime. Pick 4. He went Braylon Allen. I'm going to go Breece Hall. Is Breece going to be back to Breece where he's healthy? Is he going to be explosive, a confident player? I feel like there was the weird knee stuff. I don't know if you guys remember. I'm sure you obviously remember this, but like last spring was really weird. Breece kind of was just like not practicing the whole spring, and it was like, oh, he's got a knee thing, but he's fine. It's no big deal. Kind of turned out it was a big deal because it never really got better, and then he got the ball punched out of his hands the second series of the season, and I feel like he never recovered. I remember, his confidence is a little shaky. I'm like, dude, it's week 2. Like, how is this the thing? He had the nice catch against Tennessee, and I felt like, oh, now he's going to be kind of take off, and it just really – he had the spare moment against Pittsburgh. He had the one run against Buffalo, but it didn't really look like he was explosive. Something was just off all year, and then, and then obviously he has he had a serious knee injury, obviously, after that Colts game, and him playing was, showed a lot of heart, and I get that, but in some ways you wish they kind of just shut him down and spared him. So I want to see if Breece kind of looks explosive and how they use him, because I know I've said this a million times, but if Breece is really good and is Breece that we thought he was going to be going into last year, again, the floor of this team is raised significantly. If he's just kind of a guy, you're really down to one explosive weapon on offense, and then you're going to be in the real world of trouble. So I really want to, like, is Brees good or not? Like, it's very simple to me, and I feel like we'll know right away. Is he going to make that one cut in the hole where everyone's like, oh, yep, there it is? Or is it going to be pitter-patter, not really sure where I want to go? You don't need to be Le'Veon Bell, man. Just like hit the hole and gain 4 yards. Like it'll be okay. And if
Yikes, saying Le'Veon Bell's name in the year 2025. Wow.
I saw someone Braylon Allen was tweeting about Le'Veon Bell. He's like, I saw his 2019 camp clips. Like, he still got it. I was like, I don't know, man. Like, I watched that game against the Cardinals during COVID, and he got hawked by a defensive end on a halfback toss. Like, he was close. Yeah. The boxing didn't help, man. Did not help at all.
You're on mute, Tim.
Sorry about that. The other thing with Brees was the talk, right, in the offseason, the way Glenn approached the running back position and that. And everybody said the right things in minicamp, but it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out now, too.
Yeah, I was going to say, what if they, like, win week 1, but he gets 9 carries? Like, I'm not saying it'll happen, but, like, does that change at all just because of contract year? I feel like Brees in the past has done the whole this game's on me thing, and you're like, dude, it wasn't on you actually at all. So I just wonder how, like, Brees is just going to ego-wise handle a committee.
Yeah, I do think he's better served by this committee idea because he's not a complete running back. Like, I think it was probably over last year. He was like in that ESPN poll. He was like the second best running back. That was obviously overzealous. I don't think he's a complete running back. He's very talented and explosive, but I think he'll be better served by this offense where it's him, Fields, and Braylon Allen instead of just him. And he'll be better served by an offense that's not. Like, when he's out there, he's probably going to be either getting the ball or be an option in the passing game. Whereas when he was with Rodgers, he pretty often was not getting the ball, especially in the running game. So even if it is 10 carries a game, 10 to 15 carries a game, whatever, and Braylon Allen gets 5 to 10 and Justin Fields gets 10, I think that's probably better for Brees, especially his long-term health. Like, his knee injury was maybe more serious than we realized at the time last year. He said he was pretty banged up. Was powering through it. He probably shouldn't have. He's in a contract year. He's going to be highly motivated. He is, but to your point, like, if things aren't going well and he's not getting the ball as much as he likes, like, how is he going to handle that is going to be a question. Because at times he had a hard time biting his tongue in the past, or at least in the beginning of the season, he'd have a hard time, and then somebody would talk to him, and then he'd stop talking, speaking his mind. But yeah, he's an X factor for sure, and for this offense. And if he's really good, like, he's a candidate to be re-signed. I don't know if they want to pay a lot to a running back, but like, he has the explosiveness that you want to build around. So, and the Lions, they did pay Gibbs, didn't they? They gave him a new contract. So, it's in the blood. So we'll see. All right, let's see. I'll
number 8.
This is my fourth pick, right?
Fourth pick.
All right. Now I'll have a little fun. I'm gonna go Harrison Mevis, the kicker, that big guy. He's like 230 pounds. He's in the middle of a kicking competition. The thicker kicker. I was trying to think of his nickname. We got a kicking and punting competition at the same time. None of these guys have kicked in an NFL game, like a regular season game, but, a thicker kicker. I remember the days of Sebastian Janikowski and just marveling at how big that dude was and how he had a cannon for a leg, if that's the right terminology. Maybe they can have their own sea bass. The other Caden Davis, I thought he was outkicked by Anders Carlson in the spring, so I thought it was interesting they cut Anders Carlson. But it's gonna be a legit kicking competition. I think we'll probably see a decent amount of these guys kicking. We'll be trying to track it, but I'm just curious to see if his boot matches his size. And I know he was with the team in training camp last year. I think it was the Panthers, maybe. And he was kind of like a cult hero kind of thing for them too. So, he's the kind of guy, when you have a kicker that's big like that, it's kind of fun for a kicker, and then he becomes kind of a cult hero. If he's good, like, fans are going to latch on to him, I think. So it's a little fun one. Like, this is all for fun. So a kicker at 4th. There you go.
I wonder what you get criticized more for on social media, Zach. Justin Fields' throwing stats or the kicking numbers from.
No, fans like the kicking numbers, I think.
Yeah.
Who's the other fat kicker? Kai Fairbairn, right? It was a Texans guy for a while. No, he's not fat. Right. There's one of the other ones.
There's another one.
He's always misses field goals against the Jets. He was on the Titans a couple years ago.
I'm blanking on who it was. There was the Giants had him. There was a guy named Ryan. I'm gonna look it up. You make your pick, and I'll look it up.
I just typed in fat kicker into Google, and Randy Bullock.
Ryan Santoso.
Randy Bullock popped up.
Oh, you're thinking Randy Bullock.
That's horrible, man.
Ryan Santoso was a big dude.
fat kicker, and that's the first thing Google pops up. You gotta love that.
That's tough.
You gotta love that. I've obviously there's a bunch of guys, that are going to be, intriguing. I'm going to go with Jermaine Johnson. I think my expectation level is he's not full Jermaine really until maybe post bye week. And I don't think I think that's okay. I don't think there's a reason to like rush him there to get his 5th-year option. I know he was in his Discord talking about, I'll get mine too. And like, I'm sure maybe he will. I think Jermaine's always been the one tough one to project whether he's going to be a Jet longer than his rookie deal, just because, is he going to play up to 25, 30 million? The edge market just went up to $40 million. Like Jermaine's not a $40 million edge. And how does he value himself? I talked about the Karlaftis deal a couple of days ago. Like that's one that I was monitoring just because I think that's the most likely kind of comp for if they extend Jermaine at the end of the year. 8 to 10 sack a year, good run defender, former first-round pick. So if Jermaine's really good, and I know I've said this about pretty much everyone I've picked, like if Jermaine's really good and back to Pro Bowl level Jermaine from 2 years ago, this D-line has a really high, high ceiling. Hey, that's 3 Pro Bowl level players in your defensive line. Like you should be a pretty good group. If Jermaine's struggling to be on the field and be effective early on, that's a lot of Clemens reps. That's a lot of Tyler Barron reps. That's Eric Watts and McGregor and these guys. And it's like, that's kind of what happened last year when things fell apart and that, that second edge position got attacked day in, day out, Colts game, Bills game. Like they saw Michael Clemens on the field and it wasn't necessarily an effort thing. It's more of a, like, our quarterback is faster than you and you're going to crash down and be aggressive, or we're going to just run read option to your side. So, or QB power. So if Jermaine being back, Giants-ish, I circled that date, Zach. I'm sure you probably would feel the same way. That to me will tell me whether he's really, really going to be ready for week 1, or it's like he's on the field, Mike Williams week 1 last year, where it's like, you're playing, but you're not healthy. I expect him to be ready for week 1. I'm not saying he won't be. I think if we start to see him integrate into indie drills, maybe some 7-on-7, some, team stuff around middle of August, then I'll start to feel pretty good about, how he'll be. And he claims he's ready to go. I don't think he needed to tweet it, but, Jets are probably going to slow play it. There's no, this is a young group. I don't think they're going to sit there and like rush him back if he's not ready, but I hope he is ready just because, again, he's a really good player. And I think he's a big culture guy for them of like that toughness on defense starts up front. And they were just frankly soft last year. So I'm excited to see what Jermaine looks like in year 4.
By the way, Jermaine's like, I give him credit. He's like trying to control his own message and stuff. Like he had the thing, like you said, he mentioned he had the thing in the Discord where someone asked him about the Garrett and Sauce contracts. And he responded like, they deserved it. I haven't done anything to deserve it yet, and blah, blah, blah. And someone tweeted it out, and then he tweeted out his own update about his injury and stuff like that. So he's controlling his own. I do wonder at one point, does Aaron Glenn be like, you got to stop giving away
Everyone gives Sauce a hard
information?
time. Jermaine tweets way more than Sauce does.
Well, because Sauce, I don't think Sauce thinks before he tweets a lot of times.
He just trolls and then deletes it 10 minutes later.
Yeah. But Jermaine, as you're talking, like I was thinking, like I would argue he's probably one of the 5 most important players on this team, frankly, to their success this season. Because number one, you saw what happened when he went down last year, and they didn't have anybody able to replace what he brings, which is, maybe he's not an elite pass rusher or an elite run defender, but he's very good at both, I think. And he's a leader already, and they really missed him. And this year, I think their depth is even worse. So, at least on paper, like there's a lot of unproven guys.
Traffic cone Hassan Reddick is gone.
Yeah, traffic cone. So, I'd say the 4 obvious ones probably ahead of him would be like Justin Fields, Garrett Wilson, Sauce, and like Quinnen. But I think because of the lack of depth behind him, because he brings something as a run stopper none of their other defensive ends do, especially because Will McDonald still needs to prove a lot as a run stopper. The defensive tackle depth next to them isn't amazing. So it's like they need Jermaine to really step up, and can he like slide inside on occasion and things like that. They talked about that last year before he got hurt. So it's a big year for him. He's gonna be highly motivated, but the Achilles injury is a tough one to come back from, especially the first year after. And it's not the same. It's not even the same as Roger, where he can't even get hit throughout training camp. His first hit came in the regular season. Jermaine, when he comes back, is going to be having to, drive an offensive lineman and run and, change direction.
And car crash right away. Like that's the one thing.
Yeah.
That's why it's almost like, well, no, right? I know you feel like we're going to know pretty quickly of like, ooh, it looks good. Or it's like, Carl Lawson, like, I know he really double
Yeah.
tore it, I think. And I think Connor had that report back in a couple years ago where it's like he tore it rehabbing it. But you saw Carl come back, and I was like, there's no explosiveness left in his body. Like, he just couldn't move. And I really hope that's not the case, because Jermaine was such a fun player. And Zach, I'm curious, and Tim, you too. I don't know. I just turned into a host. That's like a natural instinct. Are you buying the Will McDonald like hype in terms of this is going to be like go from 10 sacks to 14, 15, or do you think he's kind of like maybe a better overall player this year, but it's kind of similar numbers to last year?
Yeah, I don't know. I think he has the talent to make the leap. I mean, if he has an amazing year, he has the ability to go and get an early big contract extension like the other two guys just did. But yeah, I mean, he needs to show that now that everybody knows about him and knows what he can do. He needs to, he needs to expand his oeuvre, as they say. Like his spin move is kind of his go-to, but like eventually offensive linemen are going to expect that, and the best ones are going to stop it. So can he win with power? Can he get more creative? Can he put other tools in his bag? The run stopping stuff, you would like to see him at least approach being like an average run stopper. But to me, the more important thing is just him becoming a dominant pass rusher, because if he's that, then whatever, you can live with him being okay as a run stopper. So can he take the next step? I think he can, but it's a big next step. He bulked up a little bit, but you need to see the strength. They've talked about how strong he's gotten, but yeah, it's a big year for him
Best
too. And
life, baby, best shape of his life.
And
yeah, does the bulk affect the spin move in a negative way? And then I think Jermaine is a big factor in how good, if Will can make the leap too, right? If you have that other guy on the other side.
Exactly. Agreed. All right. So that's my turn for my last pick, right? All right.
You have, by the way, no defense yet, Zach.
I know. I was about to say I'm going to go defense just because I have to, even though I'll list off some of the guys I wanted to pick after I do. But I'm going to go with Rashad Weaver, because we're going. He was like a kind of a darling of the spring. He was a great podium guy. He talked about his story about how he's gone through injuries. In 2022, he had like 5.5 sacks, and he hasn't had a sack since, and he's bounced around the league. And I think he even thought about quitting at one point or retiring because he was just not getting phone calls and all this stuff. And he looked really good in the spring. They need defensive ends. They need pass rushers. Can he, against a young offensive line, like he'll probably be matched up with guys like Armand Membu and the backups like Carter Warren and Max Mitchell and Chuks Okorafor, like these guys, like, can he win those matchups, and can he force his way into the rotation at defensive end? He's not a guy that I would say is a lock to make the team either. So like, and he knows that, I believe. Like, it's not like they paid him a lot and they need to keep him. They don't have depth. So I think they're hoping he wins one of the jobs, if not Tyler Barron, the rookie. But yeah, so he's someone I have my eye on. Like, can he carry what he did in the spring into the summer and become, can he outlast Michael Clemens? Can he jump him in the depth chart? I don't think so, probably, but I think fans would be happy with that if he was able to outplay Michael Clemens and get into the mix. Clemens is probably a better run stopper, but
all effort.
Yeah. I mean, it is going to be interesting to see what the Jets think about this new staff thinks of Clemens and stuff. We haven't really asked them about him, but yeah. So Weaver is the one. I just want to list off some of the other ones I was considering before Will talks about Rashad Weaver. I consider Quantez Stiggers there because I'm intrigued by how he looks with this new staff and a little more pressure now that it's not the staff that drafted him. I had Tyler Johnson down because I'm curious about him. I think he could be pretty good, but we'll see how he looks in this offense. Arian Smith, Malachi Corley, neither of us picked. It's a really big camp for him. We'll see if all the motivation they've been trying to put his way works. And if it does, then you have a talented player. And if not, is he going to be like their surprise cut of the year? Because they usually have one of those every year, like a Jason Pinnock from a few years ago. Is Corley going to be that guy? So those were some of the ones I was considering, even like a Jeremy Ruckert, like big offseason for him. He bulked up. I think they're pretty high on him in the building from what I hear. How's he going to look with this new staff in the last year of his contract, all that stuff?
Yeah, I considered Ruckert as well. I just thought, I don't know, confidence seemed to be an issue with a lot of guys last year. And I don't know, I don't want to sit here and be like, oh, Rodgers is to blame for everything. But I think a lot of guys like weren't ready to be playing with a quarterback that was like, Rodgers really demanding. I just don't know if Ruckert responded as well to that as, I'm not saying he did or didn't. It seemed like his confidence was a big issue because I don't know about you guys, but I felt like pretty optimistic about him going to last year. I felt like he showed a lot, especially early on in 2023. I'm like, oh, he could play that fullback, some tight end role, catch some passes. you don't start at Ohio State for 4 years and get drafted in the top 100 if you're not like a good prospect. So I considered Ruckert. Me and Corley have a blood feud, so I didn't go that way. I was also thinking about Quincy Williams too, because I felt like Quincy's another contract year guy. He's going to blitz a lot, I think, under Glenn. I think Zack was on my show the other day, and we're talking about like, can he have a really big like statistical season where it's like 5 or 6 sacks and he's forcing fumbles and doing a bunch of stuff. So Quincy was one, and the other one I thought about last week was like, what's Mason Taylor look like early on? Because again, should be an NFL ready guy to play, but is Ruckert going to start, or is it Mason Taylor's job? And it's just like, as long as he doesn't mess it up, tight end's really hard to adjust as a rookie. You got to know the run game fully. You got to know the pass game fully. And this offense is going to be a lot of motion. I'm curious how much he can. I think he's the youngest dude in the draft, if I'm not mistaken. Finally got the contract done. So Weaver wise, like another guy, as you mentioned, we talked about Jermaine and Will McDonald. Who's behind them? Because there's like 6 guys for probably 3 spots. Can someone just like take the job? Like, hey, I'm the 3rd guy, and that's it. And like, I'm going to play a bunch. Glenn obviously is a deep, like Aiden Hutchinson was up in like the high 80s, low 90s in terms of snap count. So Jets just posted. Will McDonald looks absolutely shredded.
Are they posting arrival photos already?
Yeah, Fields and him went sleeveless, and both of those dudes look like they haven't missed arm day in quite some time. I'd just be interesting to see, like, there's a bunch of spots, the 3rd linebacker spot, 3rd defensive end spot. Those are the 2 that kind of come to mind of like, hey, can someone just establish themselves as like, I'm going to be Jamie and Sherwood of 2 years ago, where I'm going to have to play a lot if someone gets banged up, or, Jermaine's not ready. And hey, Rashad Weaver looks like the player you said 2 or 3 years ago, and, makes the roster. So those guys, I don't know, Maui Noah, like this Tyler Barron, some of these young guys, can one of those guys, Zaire Barnes, I literally can't tell you how many times at practice I'm like, I don't even know where this guy is. He decleated Izzy Abanikanda last year, and I was like, well, both guys are definitely not making the team. So,
and remember the free Izzy days where fans thought he was like the next big thing. Yeah,
tough beat for Izzy, not Izzy in our Discord, who we're gonna bully to the live show, but Izzy is he with San Francisco now?
He was at the end of last year. I don't know if he still is, honestly.
Big old Bob Sala and Brent Boyer, man.
There you go.
All right, let's take a look back at the draft. Number 1, Will goes Brandon Smith. Then you went Azariah Thomas, Malachi Moore, Breece Hall, Jermaine Johnson. A well-balanced draft, Will. Very nicely done. Zack went obvious, Justin Fields, number 1. Then Braylon Allen, Jamal Pritchett, who Lou Giordano gives you the win because of that. And then goes kicker, and then Rashad Weaver to get a defensive player in. Vote in the comments section. Let us know what you like better. But I got to go with Will on this, just for the.
I did tail off at the end there. I went a little wild card, but maybe we'll tweet out our rosters and see what
my value was. Pretty horrible. I got there in the end, but for some reason,
you're right. Brandon Smith 1 was not.
If you flip yours the other way, then you probably.
I just was talking to somebody about him, so it was the top of my brain, and I'm not.
I should have picked Garrett Wilson. I should have picked Garrett. Then I would have been fine.
Should we have gone? We should have just gone the whole starting offensive line. I will say we didn't talk. Zach. I'm sure you guys have talked about this a bunch, but I'm really curious if they can get as many practices with the ones, like fully all 5 guys on the field at once. Because I don't know the last time we saw like one camp of like these 5 guys are this. I mean, I guess last year we saw it, but Tyron for some reason got in the season and totally forgot to play football, which unfortunately happens. But I know they're going to do probably the Chukwuekoror 4, like, hey, he's the starter, because he's a veteran. Like, dude, just put Memo in and like let the 5 guys play together and build chemistry, because respectfully, like, nobody wants to see the 5 guys not play together. Like, if they're going to be good this year, it's a lot of this offensive line being actually legit good.
And if they're going to run as much as we think they're going to run.
Also, you're going to need it.
And everything I've heard about Membo is they've been very impressed with him in the running game in particular. Like, maybe he'll go through his growing pains in the pass blocking game, but I think they're very impressed with him in the running game. So
We actually did not talk about Garrett or Sauce and their deals. I know it's been a week, but we were off and we didn't get back to it. But
the locker room talk.
It's what it was supposed to be, right? Though, like those
God.
two guys signing the deals together, and I feel like these are things that in Jets past don't happen. Like you don't actually get the obvious thing done. Whatever you have to do to sign these two guys in the same week and have them like be it's just what needed to happen, and this regime got it done.
Not only did it happen, but I think Muji structured both contracts, but especially Sauce in a way that like they like the Jets won that side of it, honestly. Like not like it's a competition, like they both win ultimately, but like Sauce didn't have as many guarantees, and it's not that hard to get out of his contract before the end of it, hypothetically, if it doesn't work out. You don't want that. But and then Garrett, like there's like trigger dates where it becomes guaranteed for like the next year and stuff like that. But same with him, like if you look at the dead cap hits and stuff like that. And neither of them, the cap hits don't really get big until till the end of after their rookie contracts are up in a few years. So, you have 2 stars locked in for the long term. And now I'm curious to see, we've talked about it like a little bit here, and I did on Bill's pod, the Jermaine, Quincy, John Simpson, AVT, like the guys that are Brees, like if they have good years, does Muji and Glenn, are they able to convince Woody to let them sign these guys early where you can save some money, like an Eagles type thing where you sign them early and then it looks better? Like, because if like AVT has a good year, he's going to make a lot of money in the open market, even more than Simpson because of his versatility and he's younger. Same with Jermaine Johnson. He'll be worth a lot of money if he has a really good year and hits free agency. Brees, not as much because running backs don't really make as much. Quincy is an interesting one because he just saw how much Jamie Sherwood got paid. I imagine he's going to want to be around that, if not like $1 more or whatever. So a lot of interesting conversations coming up, but I've said it. I think Muji and Glenn have done everything the right way so far. We'll see if it matters, see if they win games, see if they stick to their guns and all that stuff. But early returns have been good. I don't think this is going to be a team that like makes the playoffs or anything. I do think they're going to be competitive. We'll see. Training camp, this is a pre-training camp thought, but ask me again at the end of training camp how I feel about them, because you usually can get a pretty good read. But I just think at the bare minimum, they're going to be a team that you don't really want to face every week. Maybe they wind up with only 7 wins again, but I think they're going to be feeling better about themselves at the end of the year than they did the last few years.
Yeah, I agree. I just think they'll be fun. I do want to give Zack credit. Zach and Diana deserve at least like 10% of the credit on Sauce, Garrett, and the new locker rooms. Like, I feel like the article, they like maybe a Ring of Honor, like you can be like at least a guest lunch, a guest of the lunch speaker. Because I will say, like, I know me and Zach are talking about this before. You don't want to sit there and like, I'm not going to sit there and credit Woody for doing things that like, hey, you should do this or whatever. But there was a lot of stuff of the Rodgers stuff. You're meddling too much. The facilities aren't, there's locker rooms not the way it's supposed to be. The nutrition, like paying young players, all of that stuff was very rightfully and heavily criticized for a while. And so far, they got to win games. It's just the last couple months, but they did update the locker rooms. It's state-of-the-art facilities. He did stay out of the way once Glenn got hired, and like they did extend the young guy. I don't know, just it's as much as we can give people a hard time. I think you do want to credit guys when they do the right thing, and he's had a nice little run here. We'll see what happens if they lose 4 in a row. Does he stay out of it? Maybe, maybe not. But for right now, at least, he's done a nice job of like doing the little things that good organizations do, and not letting kind of by the wayside a little bit.
Yeah, we'll say they were. I think they got a D.
You haven't been in there
yet,
right? Zach?
No, I haven't been in there yet. They only give that to one publication, not the other ones. But they got like a D+ in the NFLPA report card for facilities, I believe. So, or locker room specifically. So this is major step up. I'll be curious to see what it looks like. We don't get in there until the season starts, but it'll be interesting to see how it looks. I mean, they have like a barber shop. They have like a sauna, and looks like the lockers themselves are a lot nicer. So good for them. All right,
Zach. Sorry, you have to get back to work today.
Yeah, but we're going to come back with another pod this week. With observation from camp. I'll have some observations online. If you haven't bought tickets yet for the live show, you should do it. I believe all 3 people on this chat are going to be there.
I'm going to make it. I'm going to make it this time.
Yeah, so maybe we'll have like a flight plan segment. Who knows? Very exciting. It's going to be in New
York. Could have if that if that Connor guy goes, we could have a can't wait reunion.
You mean the bad Connor, not the good one? Yeah,
The bad Connor, the bad Connor.
Can we bully Marissa into showing up as well?
We know the good Connor will be there.
Well, Marissa just had her second child, so I imagine she probably won't be able to go.
Joe's having a kid the month before.
We do miss Marissa on this pod, that's for sure.
Rub some dirt on it and get out there.
All right, that's going to do it for us. Like Zach said, we'll be back later in the week. I think Friday morning, maybe, Zach. Does that work? I love scheduling live on the pod. Probably Friday morning to update the first couple of days of camp, what he has seen. Thank you, Will Parkinson, for coming on. Always great to have you on the show, and we will talk to everybody soon.